COSATU was set to hold its 14th National Elective Congress in Midrand, Johannesburg from today until Thursday. Thousands of members of unions that are affiliated to the Labour Federation are expected to attend or are attending the Elective Congress. Let's listen in now as leader Zingiswa Losi takes that podium.
Unity, comrades, is hard work, and if we are not careful, it can be lost in a single moment of insanity. So it must be nourished every day by all of us. We only need to look at the fate of countless trade unions and liberation movements to see what happens to those who treat unity as a slogan. Comrades, workers have faced countless socio-economic crises since COSATU's 13th National Conference in 2018. Yet, we are here, we have survived. But comrades, indeed, we have scars and wounds. We have lost painful battles, and we have won historic victories. We have learned from our mistake, and we are wiser from them. Since our last Congress, unemployment has reached an all-time high of 46%. Some of these lost jobs, comrades, have begun to be recovered, including 638,000 during 2022, with unemployment that has decreased by 2% over the past 2 quarters. This is our number one crisis. The issue of unemployment in our country is our number one crisis. No society can sustain or can be sustained with 1 out of 2 people unemployed, with 70% of youth unemployment. Comrade delegates, we are in danger of creating a permanent class of unemployment if this situation does not change. 28 years into democracy, despite all the efforts of government, we remain the world's most unequal society with rising levels of poverty and indebtedness. In December 2019, few had COVID-19, yet within weeks it has consumed the world. We lost more than 100,000 South Africans to this pandemic. We were compelled to shut down the economy and institute a state of disaster as we sought to contain and overcome it. Against all odds, we did well. Workers and society responded to the call by the president for us to work as one and to defeat this pandemic. And we must say here that we are proud of the role that affiliates and this federation played during this moment of crisis. Comrade leadership, COSATU did not put its head on the sand. We spent sleepless nights. General secretaries and president and staff of the federation and that of affiliates had 3 gadgets in front of them, trying to find solution to a pandemic that has befell our country. So we must never forget the sacrifices that our nurses, our doctors and paramedics who work tirelessly to save millions of lives, the sacrifices that they have put to ensure that we survive the pandemic to where we are. We salute them. Comrades, the losses of hundreds of health workers that are lost not only to Dinosa, not only to Nihau, Samatu, and Sayepu, but they are lost to all of us and for all of us. We must not forget the many workers across the nation who fell to this pandemic, including the South African Police Service members, municipal cleaners and retail workers. We are indeed proud of how our affiliates responded to COVID-19. Comrade delegates, SACP Clothing and Textile worked factory by factory to ensure that clothing and textile workers not only receive their UIF COVID-19 tests, but also to engage and encourage workers to vaccinate. We also remember the daily videos that were prepared by the Democratic Teachers, South African Democratic Teachers Union, to persuade teachers on why it is critical for all of us to vaccinate, to save the lives and livelihoods. We applauded, comrades, the leadership of POPCRU when they led from the front and were among the first to vaccinate, to show workers that it was safe and it is the right thing to do. Comrade, we applauded the efforts by SASPO to persuade the banking workers to vaccinate. But not only that, to defend those who were dismissed for not vaccinating and to ensure that workers are reinstated. Yes, we have turned the corner on the pandemic. But we need to remain vigilant, to receive our booster shots and maintain health lifestyles. We owe it to our families and our health workers. We want to applaud the work done by COSATU at NETLEC, working daily with government, our sister federations, and business to manage this pandemic, to stabilize our economy, and to provide economic and social relief. Comrades, these were indeed uncharted waters. The UIF, it was never built for shutdown of the entire economy. But despite the many challenges, as a federation, we managed to ensure that over 64 billion rand was released from credit-free from the UIF to help more than 5.5 million workers to take care of their families. This is amongst the victories that COSATU had attained during the pandemic. Comrades, we worked with the banks to give 3 months loans relief to consumers, and that government provided relief to fragile economic sectors. Working with government, we managed to ensure the rollout of the social relief distress grants to more than 10 million unemployed persons. You know, sometimes when we are being critiqued, when our armchair critics say we are hibernating as a federation, probably deliberately they fail to appreciate that these are victories that COSATU have won at the level of NETLEC. So when the social relief distress grant, the 350, when the entire nation was celebrating and those that are unemployed, it is because COSATU provided alternatives and said, this is what we need. And we also said, leadership, that we need to retain and expand this as a basis of the basic income grant that we have long championed as a federation. We also said we need to retain and expand it, fix its weaknesses, increase it to the food poverty line, and link its recipients to skills training and employment programs. Because it may not be sustainable to expect people, particularly the black majority, to always be begging for a 350. Give them skills and empower them. Comrade delegates, with all our frustrations with government, we must not forget how we have worked tirelessly with it to roll out the largest relief measures since 1994. We have the stimulus that has provided work opportunities, skills, and a minimum wage for over 800,000 young people in our country. And indeed, we need to increase it to 2 million people in the 2023 budget. We must also engage government on various employment programs to address the issues that we are not happy with and to improve on those that work. We need to ensure that no person is denied the right to work, to develop the skills, and to acquire experience. And we are saying this must include improving the role that the sitters must play. So we must be alarmed, though, by the state of governance in our country. The reports by the Auditor General on the state of municipalities is a horror story. A decade ago, comrades, 10% of our municipalities were in financial distress. This is a decade ago. Today, it is 90%. 43 have collapsed. 151 are on the brink of collapse. And many municipal workers are sent home without being paid. South African Express and Mango collapsed, leaving 1,500 and 800 without jobs, and the monies that are owed to them not paid. The RAF has issued retrenchment letters to 400 workers. SAA has shed more than 8,000 of its jobs. The Post Office is planning to retrench 6,000 workers. So, whilst we must continue to fight to save their jobs, comrades, and wages of those workers at our state-owned entities, we must come up in this Congress with concrete solutions that will ensure that these SOEs are saved. Because if we don't, then we must not be surprised when they collapse and our members lose their jobs. We must also do the same with local government. It is very clear that we cannot sustain 250 municipalities. Many of them lack a rates base. So we ask a question to this Congress: what is our alternative? Can we develop a coherent roadmap to move towards the district development model? Because, comrades, if we don't, then we must expect to see a repeat of what happened in Frankfurt and Lichtenberg, where Clover closed their dairies because municipalities no longer provided essential services. And therefore, we also cannot afford to see rural communities plunged into absolute despair. So we should not think that this cannot happen at national and provincial departments, because the signs are there. The frequent load shedding and the deteriorating generation capacity at Eskom, the failure by SITA to provide reliable internet service to government, the numbers, comrades, of vacancies at Home Affairs that are not being filled, the declining headcount at the South African Police Services, the never-ending infrastructure backlog in our schools, the chaos at NSFAS, the failure to hold people to account for corruption at the state security agencies, and the list goes on. This is a picture that South Africans must deal with every day as far as the state is concerned. So as a federation, we correctly condemn the reckless austerity budget, the budget cuts to key frontline services department. Because if Treasury continues with this austerity budget, what then? So the question to ourselves is, what are we doing to expose corruption? When some of our own members are implicated, do we keep quiet now? Comrade leadership, these are hard issues we must grapple with in this Congress. And as we do so, we must also honor the sacrifices of our SAMU shop stewards who blew the whistle against corruption at VBS and were then assassinated. That cannot be in vain. As we go to Solomon Mahlangu, masikhumbule ukuthi negazi labanye liphalele ngoku. In the dawn of freedom in our country. And if we are to honor their sacrifices, then we must support the call by Pope Crew to reverse the neoliberal budget cuts to the SAPS. Because we cannot accept, comrades, we cannot accept that we have moved from 208,000 members of the SAPS in the early 2000s to 172,000 today, whilst the population in our country continues to rise. We must support Nihau, Dinosa, Sayepu and Samatu in their call for the filling of health vacancies. We must support the call by SADU to ensure that all schools are well-resourced to enable them to be places of learning and growth. Comrade leadership, we want to applaud the excellent work that is done by the staff of SARS to rid SARS of state capture and corruption. This year alone, the hard work of employees at SARS, who are members of Nihau, brought in an additional 60 billion rand in tax collection, enabling government to continue paying the social relief distress grants and retain the presidential employment stimulus. We have been engaging, comrades, with government and business on the president's call for a social compact. And whilst we support the call for a social compact, we have made it clear to government that we will not allow sacrifice the workers' hard-won rights as we agree on this social compact. We have made it clear that we will not allow our progressive labor laws to be weakened. We have made it clear, comrades, that we will not allow members to be thrown under the bus for the failures of government to govern or business to grow this economy. The social compact, it must be based upon progressive principles. The social compact, it must defend the rights of workers. It must provide relief for the unemployed. It must rebuild the developmental state. It must reduce poverty and inequality in our country. And it must address the fundamental obstacles to growing the economy and creating decent work for all. These are the principles of a social compact. So the foundation for the social compact must be the economic recovery and reconstruction plan, which speaks to stabilizing and growing the economy. It calls for securing and rebuilding Transnet and Metro Rail so that they can provide reliable transport for workers and our products that we produce. It also includes the ESCOM Social Compact, providing clear interventions for stabilizing and investing in ESCOM so that it can provide reliable and affordable energy without which the economy cannot grow. This, comrade, includes slashing ESCOM debt and tackling corruption at it. It requires, therefore, that ESCOM to be supported to invest in and own its own reliable energy generation capacity. So it must include the need to industrialize the world of finance, a just energy transition that leaves no worker or community behind. The economic recovery and reconstruction plan calls for all of us to locally produce our goods. And we have long championed this call. SACP Clothing and Textile has been a pioneer in the localization campaign. But comrades, often our actions do not match our words. It's good that here we're wearing COSATU t-shirts because we ask, the clothes we wear, the labels, where are they produced? The food we eat, the cars we drive, the furniture we use. Do we take time, comrades, to check if they are locally made? Or siyathenga because of our quality and because we've got money we can afford, and forget that when you don't buy a locally produced item, you are taking away jobs from members of SACP, from members of SACP Clothing and Textile. Our pension funds, they are the foundation for this economy, our pension funds. The PIC is the largest investment fund in Africa. The question is, do we challenge our pension and investment funds to invest more in local jobs? Do we ensure that all of the t-shirts we produce for our conferences are proudly South African? So how will this economy grow, comrades, and create jobs if we do not support it? While some unions are active in the industrial master plans, many are not. And this must be corrected. These master plans, comrades, are a key to growing the economy and creating jobs that we so need. We have scored many victories at the level of NEDLEC and Parliament. The challenge that we have as a federation in our affiliates is to ensure that these victories are implemented. As Amika Cabral says, and I quote, he says, always bear in mind that the people are not fighting for ideas, for the things in anyone's head. They are fighting to win material benefits, to live better and in peace, to see their lives go forward and to guarantee the future for their children, close quote. So COSATU and its affiliates, as we have won many progressive victories at NEDLEC and in Parliament, that now are the laws of the Republic, ours now is to ensure that our members understand them and they are being implemented. And some of these key victories include the national minimum wage. We have been criticized about it. Others said it's too little. Maybe too little for others that are earning hundreds of rands an hour. But let me tell you, comrades, 6 million workers have benefited. 6 million. 800,000 of farm workers and 900,000 of domestic workers have now received a 17% increase in 2022 on the national minimum wage. Farm workers have moved from 6 rands an hour to 23 rand 19 cents. Domestic workers have moved from 17 rands to 23 rand 19 cents, and others have critiqued us during that time, but they did not provide any solutions. The Unemployment Insurance Fund Amendment Act have expanded the maternity leave payments, including stillborn birth and third trimester miscarriages. The UIF comrades payment has increased and has been extended from 8 months to 12 months of maternity. These are victories that yourselves as a federation, you have won at the level of NEDLEC and in Parliament. The compensation for occupational Injury and Disease Amendment Bill, comrades, now includes domestic workers. And also it extends cover for workers who have been exposed to violence, have been exposed to PTSD and occupational illnesses many years after exposure at work. So you can imagine, when you have been injured at work and your case did not go anywhere, the employer did not report it, with this amendment bill, you can now go and claim. The National Credit Amendment Act, protecting indebted workers from losing their essential possession in the event of defaulting on their debts. It has been painful. The SACP had a financial sector campaign, which also part of it was dealing with the issue of the monopolies, the banking sector, repossessing the houses of workers when they have lost employment. This National Credit Amendment Act protects workers from losing their possessions when they are unable to pay those debts. Now, comrade leadership, the PIC Amendment Act providing for worker representation on the PIC board, its transparency and accountability and pro-worker investment mandate is one other victory that we have won. The expropriation bill will empower government to expropriate land, including without compensation where needed, and to accelerate land reform. But let me stress that we cannot continue to celebrate Heritage Month whilst land is not returned back to its rightful owners. It cannot be that and celebrate when we have nothing. That takes us back to what was stolen from us as African people. Heritage is about who we are, and land is about us. Allow me, comrades, to make a special mention of the Revenue Laws Amendment Bill, that is now before Parliament. This bill is in response to COSATU's call for financially distressed workers to be allowed limited access to their pension funds, and it now includes public and private sector workers. And I must report here that Treasury has agreed to the COSATU's proposal to ensure that it addresses the needs of workers. Parliament will pass it in 2023, and we are pushing for it to come into effect latest by October 2023. And this will provide badly needed relief for millions of workers and avoid, comrades, the need for members to resign and cash out their entire pension funds when they are struggling. We have seen workers having no option but to resign because, yes, the mine workers at some point in years went to claim a death benefit while they are alive. It is because they saw no need. There's money that is put aside, but that money will only cater for you when you no longer exist. So you have an option of resigning in order for you to survive and take out, and yet you are not at the age of pension. This bill, comrade, is going to take care of that so that you are able to make a withdrawal to your pension fund in order for you to pay your expenses without risking your comfort when you have reached the age of retirement. Comrade leadership, if we are to advance the working class struggles, then we must defend our movement. It is not by accident that COSATU and its predecessor SACP have been part of this alliance. Workers deliberated on joining the alliance at lengthy discussions. The alliance, like many marriages, has its ups and downs. However, with all its challenges, it remains the best vehicle to advance the struggle of workers. Comrades, the ANC and the SACP, with all of their challenges, their strengths and their weaknesses, they remain the most progressive and relevant political formation to drive the demands of the working class. So we shouldn't be fooled by peacetime slogans of the opposition parties. Because, comrades, these opposition parties, they were nowhere to be seen when workers had to go on strike in Durban in 1973, or when COSATU House was bombed in 1987, nor when the UDF was banned. The very same opposition parties have consistently, when they are campaigning, voted against our progressive laws in Parliament. This is what they have promised us. They have promised to repeal our progressive laws if they are to be elected in government. They have stated unambiguously that they will scrap the minimum wage. They will end collective bargaining. They will remove protection from unfair dismissal. They will slash the salaries of and retrench public servants and sell all SOEs. Indeed, we must admit in this Congress that the African National Congress is not perfect. It has made serious mistakes. It is battling to cleanse itself of the demons of corruption and factionalism. It is contested by various class forces in it. Yet, it has stood with COSATU when we demanded the constitutional enshrinement of workers' rights, the passing of our labor laws, and many other progressive laws. Now, what is our task? as members of the Federation. Our task, comrade, is to defend workers' hard-won victories. Therefore, we must contest the ANC